Central Market to let us do this. So Cece, you're going to talk for about 40 minutes or so, 45, 40 minutes, and then we're going to walk over to the Plaza. And that is where all the heavy lifting is going to happen. You're going to give us an introduction to some French people. Great. All right, so very quickly, Kim, would you advance this? Okay. Wait, back. Okay, so the most...
Turn your volume up a tiny bit. I think if you be a little louder, that would be great.
A lot of background noise.
Always here.
That's why I don't like it.
I know, but
okay, there we go.
So much better.
I'm going to bump this up once Cece starts talking. That's really good. Okay, so the most important thing I can do today is tell you about our next salon. Next month, the 29th of October, we are going to be working with the Los Angeles County Arts Commission again to do another tour in the Civic Center. This one just this is a more general bucket of public art. So the County of Los Angeles, Joseph Young. Everyone's heard of Joseph Young, right? Really important muralist. Okay, go read his Wikipedia page. We're going to do a tour about all this really important public art from the 1960s that the County of Los Angeles owns and maintains. And the Director of Collections, Claire Haggerty, with the Los Angeles County Arts Commission, is going to be co-hosting this with me, and it's going to be amazing. This is going to be absolutely 100% fantastic. Next slide, Kim. Kim and I do lots of things. LAVA, the Los Angeles Visionary Association, does things besides the salon. We do a benefit for the Cal State LA Criminalistics Department at Cal State LA in their crime lab. We're doing an event November 5th. SLA to DNA. So we're going to look at the, Nathan help me, May 17th, 1974 shootout on West 54th Street with members of the Symbionese Liberation Army and the LAPD, one of the largest strategic deployments of a municipal police force in the history of Southern California. We're going to do a whole forensic breakdown on it, and then we're going to have a criminalist from the Sheriff's Department, Beverly Kerr, talk about catching the bad guys with DNA and trace evidence. It's going to be awesome. Kim, next slide. Okay, Kim and I give bus tours. Kim, next slide. We have a couple interesting bus tours. Kim, your next bus tour, our bus tour coming up, you wrote a Wilshire crime tour, right? You wrote a bus tour all about crime, about Wilshire Boulevard. So we're going to ride from downtown to LACMA to have coffee and back, and just talk about crime on Wilshire Boulevard. It's going to be unhinged. Next one more. Very selfishly, I have a birthday bus. Every year we charter a bus and we drive around for my birthday. It's called In Search of Imperial, California. We're going to Orange County and southern Los Angeles County. We're going to talk about William Pereira. We're going to go to the Metropolitan State Psychiatric Hospital. We're going to go to the ruins of the old county poor farm. Nathan Marsak, we're going to go into Melrose Abbey in Anaheim with you, which is 1928. It's going to be an amazing 8-hour day, and we're having Indian buffet, okay, in the middle, and we're going to Adobe's. Okay, so it's going to be unhinged, and I think that's it. Okay. Yep. Okay. All right, Cece.
And turn Kimberly's too.
I know. I'm going to take care of it.
Will you take care of it?
Yeah. Okay. Okay, Cece. Thank you. I want everyone to give Cece a very warm welcome. Okay, so Cece, so you're going to give us, this is going to serve as just a basic introduction to French Los Angeles, and then we're going to get over to the Plaza and just dig in. All right, let's go. Step forward just a minute.
Bonjour, everyone. Thank you all for coming. I'm sure I don't need to tell this audience that Southern California has a rich and fascinating history, or that some of its best stories have been swept under the rug. Between 1850 and 1860, French and French-Canadian immigration to Los Angeles exceeded that of all other nations. That's a direct quote from Angel's Walk stanchion in Chinatown. Those French settlers weren't the first, nor would they be the last, but for some reason no one seems to remember them. The French have loved California ever since they found out it existed. Theodore de Croix de Lille, Captain General of Northwestern Mexico under King Carlos III and a native of Lille, France, recommended founding a pueblo on the banks of the LA River in 1781. So Los Angeles exists because a French guy told the King of Spain to build a town there. In 1824, an 8-year-old cabin boy from Marseille became enchanted with Southern California when the ship was docked in San Pedro. His name was Joseph Mascarell. 3 years later, Mascarell saw San Pedro again while serving as a cadet on the Jeannette. Jean-Louis Vines was a passenger on the same ship. He did a little trading in port, but like Mascarell, he was enchanted with California. We'll come back to Mascarell and Vines.
Apparently this is going to be better. I will make it work too.
Thank you. Sorry about that.
After Napoleon had his Corsican derriere handed to him at Waterloo, a lot of Napoleonic guards found themselves out of a job. Meanwhile, Mexico needed soldiers to gain independence from Spain, and a solution presented itself. One mercenary who fought the revolution and was paid in land was Louis-Auguste Boucher. In 1827, Boucher made his way north to a little town of just under 700, El Pueblo de Nuestra Señora de la Reina de Los Angeles. Just north of Union Station, we find Boucher Street, which currently holds the Twin Towers Correctional Facility, the LA Central Men's Jail, the Central Arraignment Court, the County Public Defender's Office, County Pretrial Services, the Sheriff's Department, and some bail bonds offices. Don't know how the Boucher family would feel about that. So, 47-year-old Jean-Louis Vines from Bordeaux drifted into town in 1831. Vines believed grapevines could thrive in Southern California's mild climate and bought 104 acres of land along the river. He also planted Southern California's first orange grove. And Vines' vineyard was called El Aliso, after a very famous local landmark. A giant sycamore, more than 60 feet high and 200 feet in diameter, shaded his wine cellar. The tree can be seen in the earliest known photo of Los Angeles.
Charlie, let me know if you need me to advance. I don't know your slide.
In 1839, Jean-Louis' sister sent her youngest son, 20-year-old Pierre Saint-Sauvin, to California to find out if Uncle Jean-Louis was even still alive. By the time Pierre arrived, Jean-Louis was doing so well that he finally wrote to his family in France and suggested they join him in California. 3 of Vines' 5 children, 1 brother, 4 nephews, and multiple family friends did exactly that. Vines is known as the father of French migration to California. By the 1850s, Vines' land and the surrounding neighborhood were known as Frenchtown. Less than a year after arriving, Pierre sailed to Santa Barbara, Monterey, and San Francisco to sell El Aliso's wine and brandy. He successfully made the first wholesale wine transaction in California history. His older brother Jean-Louis later joined them. In 1855, Vines sold El Aliso to his nephews for $40,000. Now that's about $1.1 million today, and it was the largest amount of money ever paid for real estate in California at the time. Now, ironically, Vines' children later sued their own cousins, accusing them of underpaying for the vineyard. Now, most Californians have no idea Vines was our state's first commercial vineyard, but he lives on via Vine Street near Union Station. Pierre and Jean-Louis, who had been an engineer in France, expanded wine production, opened a storefront in San Francisco, and hired a champagne maker from Veuve Clicquot to make the Saint-Sauvin Brothers champagne. The brothers sold 300 cases a month. When the French government opened its Los Angeles consulate in 1860, Saint-Sauvin Brothers champagne was served. But it didn't last long. 1 out of every 5 champagne bottles exploded, which is an extraordinarily high loss. The brothers had to shut down production. And to make matters worse, when their cousins sued them, they lost in court and the sheriff auctioned their possessions and remaining wine stock. The city's water supply used to be provided by zombies or open ditches. They weren't clean and they weren't safe. In 1863, Jean-Louis, the engineer, was contracted to improve the water system. But it was so difficult and expensive that he gave up. 2 years later, he was offered the contract again. This time he brought in help. Damien Marchessault, mayor of Los Angeles and former water overseer. In the cornfield, now Los Angeles State Historic Park, Jean-Louis built a dam and water wheel to feed one of the city's first backup supplies of water, the Saint-Sauvin Reservoir. Unfortunately, in 1868, severe flooding undid all of their work. Now, there was a Saint-Sauvin Street, but it disappeared when the 101 freeway was cut through downtown. You can't talk about California history without mentioning the Catholic Church. That's certainly true of the French. We all know LA's oldest church, La Placida. Very few people know its first two priests were French. Jean-Augustin Alexis Bachelot led the first Catholic mission of Hawaii, got deported, landed at San Pedro, became La Placida's first resident priest, and taught one of the city's first schools due to a teacher shortage. His successor, Reverend Lestrade, also doubled as a teacher and founded the first boarding school in Southern California. Henri Penelon, who arrived here in 1853, was LA's first commercial artist. He was contracted to paint the repaired church inside and out. He painted a mural of the Madonna child over the church's door, flanked by angels. He was believed to paint the stage of the cross. He lettered the marble tablets. He also worked as a photographer to supplement his income from painting. Backs of his photographs bore a stamp that could reference either trade. Now, Penelon's best-known work is the equestrian portrait of Jose Andres Sepulveda riding his racehorse Black Swan. The painting now belongs to the Bowers Museum in Santa Ana. Penelon's subjects were nearly all from wealthy California families. These paintings, which belong to the Natural History Museum, show Feliciana Indar, who was related to Theo Pico, Don Francisco Sepulveda, and Don Vicente Lugo. The museum's Seaver Center for Western History Research owns 13 of Penelon's surviving paintings and a collection of his known photographs. Speaking of which, anyone seen this? The earliest known picture of Los Angeles? Widely attributed to Henri Penelon. Let's talk politics. Damien Marchessault was a riverboat gambler from Quebec and owned a saloon in Los Angeles. Now, I partnered with another French-Canadian, Victor Baudry, in the ice business. We'll get back to Baudry's. Ice House Canyon between Mount Baldy and Mount San Antonio is named for their ice house. Marchessault was a popular local figure and was asked to run for mayor, which he did, winning the election and serving a total of 6 terms. Now, the winter of 1859-1860, his first term, brought the worst rains and flooding Los Angeles had seen in many years. So soon after he took office, Marchessault was in the thick of rebuilding LA. But this was a very hard time for LA. The Civil War was going on, there was a deadly measles outbreak, the economy was terrible, another flood ruined the water system again, and there was a drought so severe that ranchers called their cattle and farmers let their fields die. But Marchessault's approval rating stayed up. Under his guidance, the Wilmington drum barracks were established just in case of a Confederate outbreak. The first Chinese market opened, gas streetlights and telegraph wires were installed, and the mayor himself helped organize the first municipal gas company. Now, the cycle of droughts and flooding and more droughts inspired Marchessault to seek better water management for LA. At the end of his 1865 term, he was appointed water overseer, which was a higher-paying job than mayor at the time. He pushed on with improvements, and soon partnered with Jean Bruce Poole. They installed pipes made from hollowed-out logs, which often leaked or burst. This was very hard on the mayor. His administration was now being accused of corruption because of his partnership. He lost large amounts of money on bad investments and on trying to fix the water system. He borrowed money from everyone he knew, and he couldn't repay his debts. He drank heavily and gambled more than ever. Now, early in the morning of January 20th, 1868, the mayor entered an empty council chamber at City Hall. He wrote a letter to his beloved wife, Mary. The progressive 6-term mayor then shot himself with a revolver. He was buried in the city cemetery. Now, Mary remarried again after his death, but she was married to Marchessault and her son from her first marriage, which passed away in 1878. When the old city cemetery was turned into, would anyone like to guess? A parking lot. Surviving family members moved Mary, Marchessault, and Mary's son to Angeles Rosedale. Marchessault and Sansavan failed, but their successors didn't. The city water company, co-founded by Solomon Lazard and Prudent Baudry, was fittingly located at the corner of Alameda and Marchessault Streets. We'll get back to that. Good luck finding Marchessault Street today. They renamed it. Now, some historians credit Marchessault's leadership with turning the Pueblo into the city of Los Angeles, citing his many accomplishments and his strong leadership in quickly rebuilding the ruined Pueblo. Marchessault was so popular that his re-election streak was broken only once by Joseph Mascarell, by this point a sea captain. By 1844, Mascarell had saved enough money to buy the Jeannette. He sailed back to San Pedro, sold his ship, and bought an entire city block of the province on the northern edge of the original French town. He also bought some farmland up in Hollywood. Mascarell lived in an old adobe house on Main Street for many years, and I'll point out the corner where he used to stand. He spoke fluent Spanish and was called Don Jose. When Mascarell was elected in 1865, he responded to the abysmally high rate of violent crime by banning residents from carrying any weapons whatsoever. This was not a popular move, but he was credited with maintaining order in a sharply divided L.A. California was a Union state, but there were a lot of Confederate sympathizers in and around town, and the situation was tense enough that 4th of July celebrations had to be suspended. French, Spanish, and Mexican Angelenos liked Mascarell, but the growing Anglo minority resented his inability to speak English and took out a nasty classified ad. Wanted, a candidate for mayor who could read and speak the English language by many citizens. California had only been part of the United States for 10 years at this point. French was the second most common language spoken in LA, and English would remain a distant third for some time, so it may not have been an entirely fair demand. Mascarell was one of the wealthiest men in California. In spite of his generosity and his charitable causes, he was worth over $1 million, and in 1896, that was serious money. When he died in 1899, he left behind his common-law's second wife, children from both wives, grandchildren from his first marriage, and the remainder of his massive fortune. Now, most of the money was willed to his grandchildren from his first wife, and his children from wife number 2 quickly contested the will. He'd owned land in 4 counties, but began to give it away as he got older. Now, Mascarell's headstone lists his first name as Jose. The headstone is otherwise in English, even though he neither spoke nor read the language. Straight up in Mission Hills was named for the former mayor, but as you can see, they didn't quite get it right. Now, the 1860s, Southern California was still a wild west. Los Angeles was the most dangerous city in the United States. At one point, its murder rate was 20 times that of New York City. Throw in accidents, illness, and unreliable sources of highly questionable water, and people died. A cabinet maker from French-speaking Belgium, Victor Connet, moved to Los Angeles in 1869. Before long, he was making coffins. All the money, right? Pretty soon, they just banned the city undertaker. Now, one of Connet's properties has a link to a better-known part of local history. The Morrison Hotel, within Victor's Connet Square tract, had become a transient hotel by the 1960s, but it didn't stop the doors from posing for alcohol on Broadway. Victor retired to his farm in West Hollywood. In 1906, a road was cut through the farm. West Hollywood was still way out the country at the time. The road wasn't paved until the 1930s. You know this road. You've driven on it without a second thought. Sunset Boulevard. Now, another construction project took place that year. A new church intended to serve the Roman Catholics who lived out in the boondocks of West Hollywood. Wow, that sounds weird. Victor donated the land in the original building. As you can see, it was rebuilt. St. Victor Catholic Church remains active to this day. Now, St. Victor was once attached to a parochial school. My mother worked at a very campus in the 1970s, and even though her job frequently took her onto the church's side of the property, she knew absolutely nothing about its French connection until I told her about it 6 months ago. Victor's grandchildren developed Sunset Plaza in the 1920s, and inherited from Victor. Now, the French community was more diverse than you might expect. French immigrants came from different parts of France, Quebec, Louisiana, Belgium, Switzerland, and the disputed territory of Alsace-Lorraine. The majority came from Basque regions. It wasn't long before a dozen Basque boarding houses popped up in Frenchtown. Basques have traditionally been farmers, and a lot of them left downtown for wide open spaces like Orange County, the Inland Empire, Bakersfield, Tehachapi, and Chino. There was one Basque by the name of Pascal Bayad who owned a sheep ranch in San Juan Capistrano and 2 hotels catering to his fellow Basques. And he bought the Pico House, which had been renamed the National Hotel by this point. Other French settlers had worked at the Pico House before that. Southern California's first pharmacy, owned by Francois Victor Chevalier, opened across the street in the Cinderella building and moved to the Pico House. The hotel's on-site restaurant featured French food, French language menus, and a manager known as French Charlie Loger. When the French Republic turned 100 in 1892, French locals celebrated with an extravagant banquet and ball at the National Hotel. Now, it wasn't all good times. There were some bad grapes in the wine vat. immense words. Michel Leonis, a 6'4", 220-pound French bass, dubbed Don Miguel out of fear rather than respect, was a human stain. When he arrived in 1854, after jumping ship, Leonis worked as a foreman on Rancho L.A. in the western San Fernando Valley. Within a few years, he bought out his employer's half of the rancho. The other half of the rancho belonged to a young Chumash widow named Espiritu Chiflia Menendez. You know where this is going, right? So Leonis married Espiritu, took over her half of the rancho, raised sheep on it, and added to his landholdings many times over through threats, violence, and nuisance lawsuits. They called him the King of Calabasas, but he owned or controlled most of the Western Valley and part of Ventura County. He confided in the few people who would let close to him that he wanted to build his own empire that could last forever. This is the Leonis ability. Come home for a man dreaming of an empire. He had more than 100 employees, including Chumash and Mexican vaqueros, whose sole responsibility was to scare off homesteaders who got too close. One dispute resulted in a 2-week standoff that culminated in a murder. His own employees were terrible. When intimidation didn't work, Leonis used the court system. He was a plaintiff in at least 30 property disputes, and to put that into perspective, fewer than 4,000 people lived in L.A. County, which still included Orange County, in 1860. Leonis managed to sue at least 30 of them, and he wasn't above bribing judges and juries with food, alcohol, and cold hard cash. Now, Leonis and Espiritu had a daughter together, Marcelina. Leonis doted on his daughter and always gave her the best of everything. But Marcelina's life was cut short by smallpox when she was 20. For 3 days after Marcelina's death, Leonis drank more heavily than usual. You'd think that suddenly losing his only child might have prompted him to rethink some of his life choices, but it didn't. In September of 1889, Leonis won his first court case since Marcelina's death. He celebrated his victory in the saloons downtown before heading back to Calabasas and got himself into what must be the earliest drunk driving accident in Southern California history. Somewhere in the Cahuenga Pass, Leonis fell out of his wagon and its heavy wheels ran right over him. After 3 days of agony, the man who had terrorized the Western Valley was dead. You'd think that would be the end, but several years earlier, Leonis had hidden the nastiest trick he could think of up his sleeve. Now, Leonis married Espiritu for her family's land and then treated her like the help instead of his wife for the next 30 years. He was the 3rd richest person in California when he died. But he left Espiritu a pittance of $5,000, willing the rest of his money and land to his siblings. And in insult to injury, he referred to Espiritu as his housekeeper, denied that they had ever been married, and left the money with the caveat that she would only get it if she didn't contest the remainder of the will. Espiritu was not well educated, but she wasn't stupid, and she'd had enough. She hired an attorney. The jury deliberated for less than a day before legally awarding Espiritu the widow's share of the husband's estate. Earlier that year, Leonis had written to his nephew, Jean-Baptiste Leonis, asking him to leave seminary school and take over his estate. It didn't quite work out that way, but by the time J.B. died, he'd established an empire of his own. J.B. Leonis partnered with the Furlong brothers to found the city of Vernon. Vernon was designed to support business rather than pesky residents who might outvote the city's founders. To this day, Vernon has very few residents, and JB's grandson, Leonis Malberg, served as mayor for decades before being convicted of voter fraud and conspiracy. The founding of Vernon prompted other industrialists to found the competing cities of industry and commerce. By the way, it's not a coincidence that Vernon's only restaurant is the original Basque kitchen. There was also an ugly piece of work called Michel Lachenet. In the fall of 1861, a Frenchman living in Los Angeles died, and other French residents organized a wake. After the mourners had been drinking for several hours, Michel Lachenet got into an argument with Henri Delaval about whether the French Benevolent Society, which saw to the medical needs of the French community, had neglected a dead man. Lachenet cursed out Delaval. Delaval punched him in the face. Lachenet drew his pistol and tried to shoot Delaval, who was unarmed. The gun misfired. Lachenet pulled the trigger again. Another misfire. Lachenet stepped into the light, reloaded his gun, and deliberately shot Delaval twice in the stomach. Henri Delaval died later that night. Angry French-speaking mob descended upon the Lachenet ranch, but he had already fled, leaving his wife and daughter behind. What a guy. This incident was deeply embarrassing to the French community, who took pride in being law-abiding when others weren't. One French citizen offered a $100 reward, that's about $1,200 today, for the apprehension and delivery in the county jail of Lachine. After 5 years of hiding in Mexico, Lachine surrendered and pleaded self-defense, claiming to be afraid of vigilante justice, and was acquitted. The very next day, another Frenchman, Felix Signoret, led a vigilante group that lynched 4 other murderers who were slated to be defended by the same lawyers who had secured the acquittal. Signoret had participated in lynchings before and let it be known that the committee would consider hanging lawyers who secured acquittals for murderers. Lachine was on trial against Signoret. One of his vineyard workers, a Native American man named Pablo Moreno, was bludgeoned to death with Lachine's revolver. Lachine's wife Maria testified that Moreno had gotten drunk, fallen, and hit his head on a rock. The jury didn't buy it. Lachine was convicted of manslaughter and sentenced to San Quentin. He appealed his conviction. The state Supreme Court ruled that a new trial was necessary, but it never took place and he was off scot-free. Lachine was charged with malicious mischief for illegally diverting water from a zamba. That time they found him guilty. Lachine argued the man shot him in the face, blinding him. He was arrested. He was never tried. Maria Lachine died suddenly at the age of 48. It was widely rumored that Michel killed her. Finally, Lachine shot and killed his next-door neighbor, Jacob Bell, during an argument. Lachine stupidly went to the saloon, drunkenly boasted about murdering Bell, and stated where he had left Bell's body. This time, he was swiftly arrested for murder. The day he was due to be arraigned, Felix Signoret once again led about 50 vigilantes, most of them French, to the jail, overpowered the deputies, and broke down the doors. Lachine was dragged to the city's hanging grounds. He was made to stand on a large wooden box with a rope around his neck. Lachine stated, well, it's all through, and I'm going to the Spirit Land to fight the Germans. The Franco-Prussian War was raging at the time. He turned to Laplace's priest and said, goodbye, Padre, again claiming self-defense in the murder of Jacob Bell. But the mob was having none of it. Lachine was allegedly still talking when someone finally kicked the box out from underneath him. Lachine's death was the last lynching in California history. In a neat little twist of fate, the site where Lachine was hanged is known to be the current home of the U.S. District Courthouse. As for Felix Signoret, he established the finest barbershop in Los Angeles that spun his earnings into a saloon, billiard hall, and eventually his own business block. The Signoret building stood opposite the Pico House. Now, Signoret also served on the city council. But how does a councilman get into the business of leading a lynch mob? It's very simple. Southern California was an extremely violent place at the time, and what little law enforcement did exist couldn't keep up with the criminals. Signoret wasn't the first concerned local to take matters into his own hands. After the Signorets moved away in the 1880s, their elegant French-style Victorian home was repurposed as a brothel. So what was this French benevolent society that got Lachine and Delaval into a deadly argument in the first place? Now, the oldest hospital in Los Angeles, St. Vincent's, is a Catholic hospital. To their credit, the Daughters of Charity never turned away a patient, but by the late 1850s, LA was outgrowing its only hospital and becoming a little more diverse. More and more Protestant and Jewish newcomers began to arrive. The French community decided to see to its own needs. In 1860, 33 French Angelenos and 2 Italians met at the French consulate under the invitation of Consul Jacques-Antoine Moreau. The group decided to form a non-sectarian mutual protective association, predating the concept of an HMO, called it the French Benevolent Society, and hired a doctor. The need for medical care was great enough that by 1861, the society decided everyone else could see their doctor as well. In 1869, construction began on the French hospital. When the building fund ran out of money, the society, realizing it doesn't rain very often here, made the best of the situation by equipping the completed ground floor and opening the hospital with half a second story and no roof. Since 1989, it has been known as the Pacific Alliance Medical Center and is still an active hospital. The Joan of Arc statue, erected in 1964, stands outside the hospital to this day. Nearby is an Angel's Walk stanchion with a quick primer on the history of the French community and the birth of Chinatown. So we've covered community, crime, and healthcare. Let's get down to business. Charles Ducommun was a watchmaker in French-speaking Switzerland. In 1848, he walked across the country from Arkansas to California, carrying this shotgun with him for safety. By the way, Ducommun was a half-blind smallpox survivor, and he still managed to work as a watchmaker with all those fiddly little parts. I don't know how he did it. set up a combination jewelry and hardware store in Los Angeles. He was one of the organizers of the Pioneer Oil Company, the first in the metropolis built on huge deposits of oil. He was a founding member of the Farmers and Merchants Bank and a director of the City Water Company. Lazard Street was renamed Newcomers Street in the early 20th century. Now, Newcomers store is, in a way, still with us in 2017. The Newcomers family kept pace with changes in Southern California's economy, and when the defense industry rose to meet the needs of World War I, Newcomers began distributing metals. In the 1920s, Newcomers got in on the ground floor of a brand new industry, aviation and aerospace. One of Charles's 4 sons led a support to Donald Douglas, as in Douglas Aircraft. Charles Lindbergh's Spirit of St. Louis was made with tubular steel supplied by Newcomers. In World War II, Newcomers carbon and stainless steel went into countless bomber and fighter aircraft used in the European and Pacific theaters. After the war, Newcomers followed the money into passenger aircraft and the space race. Newcomers Industries trades on the New York Stock Exchange under the ticker symbol DCO. It is the oldest continuously operating company in California. By the way, my French-American grandfather worked in aerospace for over 30 years and knew absolutely none of this. But the one forgotten French Angeleno that everyone should know about is Remy Nadeau. His life deserves its own biography, but we only have so much time, so this is the Cliff Notes version. The French call him Crazy Remy for his big dreams and wild ideas. Anglos called him the Crazy Frenchman. But those crazy ideas made him crazy rich. Remy moved to Los Angeles in 1861. He borrowed money from Prudent Beaudry so he could buy a wagon and a team of mules and set up his own freighting company. The 20-mule team was created by Remy Nadeau. They took Mojave Desert silver to San Pedro, where it was loaded onto ships and sent to San Francisco to be refined. Because the Cerro Moro mine stimulated so much business between Inyo County and San Pedro, it wasn't long before 2 railroads branched out to the Mojave Desert. When Remy's contract expired, the mine's owners tried to make him lower his freighting fees. Remy refused and started hauling borax from mines in Nevada, which is why borax boxes to this day reference Remy's mule teams. Mines owners tried other freighters, but they couldn't handle the output. Remy agreed to come back only if the mining company paid for new stations. Each freighting station was a combination of hotel, trading post, blacksmith shop, stable, and corral. Basically a 19th century truck stop. Some of them got big enough to go into towns. And Remy built the Nadeau Hotel in spring of the first in town. The first 4-story building in Southern California. The first building in Southern California to have a passenger elevator. And an unusually high number of bathrooms for a grand hotel opening. Everyone said Remy was crazier than ever. But the joke was on them, because the Nadeau Hotel quickly became the hotel of choice for Southern California's elite. Speaking of hotels, has anyone ever been to the Biltmore? You can show your hands. Anyone been to the Biltmore? The Biltmore was built on the site of Remy Nadeau's house. On a freighting trip one day, Remy discovered an injured man stranded in the desert without food or water. His wagon had broken down and he was too weak to ride a horse. Remy tended to the man's injuries, carried him to the next station, and told the staff to take care of the man and fix his broken wagon. On his way back to town, Remy stopped at the same station and was greeted by the stranger he had rescued. He thanked him and offered payment, but Remy refused. The stranger was surprised and asked Remy if he had ever heard of the notorious bandit Tiburcio Vasquez, which of course he had. The stranger replied, "Mr. Nadeau, I am Vasquez, and I will tell you now so that you may rest at ease in your mind. So long as I live, none of my men will ever rob you or your teams or any of your property, and I will pass the word along to others that I, Vasquez, wish Nadeau and whatever is his to be respected." Remy's wife felt her husband should have brought Vasquez to the authorities. He replied, "Freighting is my business, and so long as my freighters are not bothered by Vasquez, Vasquez is not bothered by Nadeau." Remy's business interests accounted for 1/4 of all exports leaving Los Angeles between 1869 and 1882. A newspaper account claimed Nadeau has given employment to more men and purchased more produce. He introduced more trade to Los Angeles than any other 5 men in the city, and it all started with a $600 loan from Prudent Beaudry. Now, the Beaudry brothers were also from Quebec. Victor was in the shipping commission business in San Francisco in the 1840s, but he was still a teenager. Now, Prudent, who was 13 years older, joined him and they got into the ice business. After losing most of his money in a bad investment, Prudent packed up, went to Los Angeles, and opened a store. Victor joined him and partnered with Damian Marshall in the ice business. Now, in 1861, son, he received a contract to supply the Union Army. After the war, Victor acquired an interest in the Cerro Gordo silver mines. In 1867, Prudent Beaudry bought Bunker Hill and soon became California's first realtor, first large-scale developer, and an urban planner. The Beaudry brothers predicted correctly and beyond their wildest dreams that after railroad lines connected Los Angeles to San Francisco and the East Coast, newcomers would pour to Southern California in droves. Now, Beaudry was very concerned about improving city life. He established the Los Angeles City Water Company with health official Dr. John Griffin and French-born businessman Salon. Most of the original employees were also of French extraction. Most people aren't aware that Beaudry developed for everyone. He did develop Bunker Hill and Angelino Heights, but he also built modest homes and small lots for low-income buyers and turned a malodorous swamp into Pershing Square. In 1874, Prudent Beaudry became LA's third French mayor, serving 2 terms, and at the same time, his brother Jean-Louis Beaudry was serving as mayor of Montreal. Beaudry's importance as an urban planner and city developer is almost completely forgotten today. Now, Beaudry's sometime business partner, Solomon Lazard, was from Lorraine. He and his cousin Maurice Kramer partnered in grow shops that became the Ville de Paris, or City of Paris department store. Every elegant woman in Southern California bought the latest in French fashions from City of Paris. Would anyone like to guess where City of Paris was located? Right here in this very building. City of Paris was the building's previous tenant and for a time doubled as the French consulate. Now, Lazard served as treasurer of the Hebrew Benevolent Society and had such a spotless reputation for honesty that miners and other locals would keep their valuables in his safe. They called him Don Solomon, and he would often act as floor manager at balls and fandangos. Now, Solomon sold City of Paris to another cousin, Eugene Meyer, who expanded the store and doubled as a French consular agent. Eugene's son became chairman of the Federal Reserve and later bought the Washington Post. Eugene's granddaughter was the formidable Catherine Graham. Now, another family, the Centu brothers, are best known for establishing a meatpacking plant so large that it was a stop on the Pacific Electric Railway. Centu Station was demolished many years ago, but the location is still used as the La Cienega Jefferson stop on the Expo line. Now, the Centu block on Main Street had apartments upstairs, and Pio Pico spent his last days there. Christine Sterling, the mother of Olvera Street, dressed in widow's weeds, and hung a black wreath on the door when she heard was slated for demolition. There was a Centu housing tract at the Centu Street School. Both were demolished in 1969 to build, would anyone like to guess? A parking lot for the Staples Center. Centu Street was renamed LA Live Way. We've heard enough about French wine. Shall we talk about French bread? Louis Mesmer was a baker from Alsace-Lorraine and bought land in West LA that was called Alsace. A planned development called Mesmer City fell through, but there is a Mesmer Avenue just west of 405. Howard Hughes bought 380 acres of Alsace to build Hughes Airport. Would anyone like to guess what they built there in the 40s? Much bigger failure than Mesmer City, the Spruce Goose. By the way, my French-American grandfather worked for Hughes Helicopter Division. He knew absolutely nothing about any of this. Now, the Mesmers were devout Catholics, but Louis was the first commercial baker in LA to make matzah for the city's growing Jewish community. He also opened the first shoe store in Southern California, served as president of a brick company, and was contracted to finish construction on St. Viviana Cathedral with his 21-year-old son, Joseph. By the way, when Joseph was only 15, he was part of the mob that lynched Lachenet. Now, Louis had 4 other children, including Mary Agnes Christina Mesmer. Everyone called her Tina. Tina married a man about town by the name of Griffith J. Griffith. Now, the Griffiths donated 3,000 acres of Rancho Los Feliz to the city, with the caveat that it become a public park. And with that, Griffith Park was born. Griffith was praised for his generosity, but those who knew the man personally described him as a pompous, lying egomaniac. Griffith donated generously to the temperance movement and claimed to be sober, but he had a severe drinking problem, and his delusions began to descend into full-blown paranoia. In 1903, the Griffiths were staying at the Arcadia Hotel in Santa Monica. Griffith, drunk as always, was convinced that his Catholic wife was conspiring with the Pope to poison him and steal his fortune. Tina was her trunk when Griffith entered the room, pulling out his revolver. He pointed the gun at Tina, telling her, "Get your prayer book and kneel down and cover your eyes. I'm going to shoot you and going to kill you." He fired the gun, but Tina jerked away and the bullet passed through her left eye. She jumped out of the window, landing on an awning 2 stories down and crawling through another window to safety. Defense attorney Earl Rogers, who inspired the fictional attorney Perry Mason, argued that Griffith was suffering from alcoholic insanity.
Well, you should know.
The jury sentenced him to 2 years at San Quentin for assault with a deadly weapon. Tina's broken shoulder healed, but her left eye was destroyed and she was disfigured for life. And like Espiritu Leona's before her, she'd had enough and hired an attorney. The judge who heard Tina's case granted her a divorce in a record 4.5 minutes. Griffith wanted to atone for his misdeeds when he got out of the slammer. So in 1912, he offered to fund an amphitheater and a science building inside the park, but the Parks Commission wouldn't take his money. 7 years later, Griffith died, no surprise here, from liver disease. He left the money to the city for a Greek theater and observatory. This time the city took it. Griffith's olive branches to Los Angeles can be seen in such films as Rebel Without a Cause, Get Him to the Creek, and La La Land. He is immortalized in sculpture form in Griffith Park. But Tina Mesmer, who barely survived her marriage to a deranged alcoholic, has been forgotten. And speaking of ranchos, Rancho Los Encinos was owned by 4 French Basque families, and the Garniers were the first. The Garnier brothers built a 2-story house on the premises to house their employees. Supposedly, it's based on the family home back in France. So much so that Andres Pio's brother, used to bring special guests all the way to Los Encinos just for breakfast. Their dining room had beautiful faux marble walls, plastered over and forgotten for over a century until the 1994 Northridge quake dislodged some of the plaster. The Garniers lost the ranch to foreclosure. Now, Philippe Garnier later built the Garnier Building and Garnier Block in the plaza, and rented the Garnier Building to Chinese merchants. The Garnier Building is the last remaining vestige of LA's original Chinatown and houses the Chinese American Museum. We'll be seeing that in a little bit. Now, another French Basque bought the ranch and left it to his nephew, one Simon Bless, who sold it to his father-in-law, Domingo Amistoy. Now, the Amistoy family owned Rancho Los Encinos, including the adobe, until 1944. After the war, it was subdivided into Encino and Sherman Oaks. Simon Bless, incidentally, lived in this Victorian house that still stands in Boyle Heights. His great-granddaughter, Sharon Bless, yes, she's that Sharon Bless, had a hand in getting it landmarked. By the way, I'm from Sherman Oaks, and my family knew none of this. Now, Germain Pellissier was a sheep rancher. He bought land several miles west of downtown, believing the city would expand eventually, and when it did, he developed Pellissier Square. These days, Pellissier Square is known as Koreatown. Now, Pelissier's grandson, Henry de Roulet, commissioned the Pellissier Building, a 12-story, really great Art Deco masterpiece, and on its ground floor is the famous Wiltern Theater. Germain's nephews raised dairy cows on much of the land that constitutes modern-day Whittier. Now let's move on to World War I, shall we? In July of 1870, the Franco-Prussian War began. 19-year-old Georges Le Mesnage, who had only been in Southern California for a few months, dropped everything and went right back to France to enlist in the French Army. After the war, he worked as a notary, court translator, newspaper editor, and vineyard. Georges built this stone barn in his vineyard in what is now Glendale. Georges' son converted the barn into a farmhouse after it was damaged in a fire and then a flood. When World War I broke out in 1914, Georges stepped away from all 4 of his jobs to re-enlist in the French Army. He was 64 years old. Georges was wounded 5 times during the war. He survived being thrown through the air by a German artillery shell. He survived a suicide mission to fetch ammunition. Despite his age, he was a great soldier and went from private to a lieutenant. Close to the war's end, he worked as a special liaison and translator under General Pershing. The Le Mesnage family lived in that stone house until the 1960s. Now, he wasn't the only person active during World War I. Dr. Kate Brusso, a 55-year-old psychologist and professor, took a 2-year sabbatical from teaching to volunteer with the American Fund for the French Wounded. She examined French women called into service, served with the French army, and helped rehabilitate traumatized soldiers after the war. She had a PhD in psychology from the University of Paris. But France had no greater supporter in California during the war than Lucien Napoleon Brunswick. He was a pharmacist who founded the Brunswick Drug Company, which later folded to AmerisourceBergen, and also headed the American Committee for Devastated France. He was active in the Alliance Française, the French Ambulance Service, and supported French war orphans. At the age of 63, Brunswick spent 8 months in war-torn France writing about his experience. After the war, he served as vice chair of the committee that placed this memorial, the Doughboy, in Pershing Square. Pershing Square is slated for a remodel, funnily enough, by a French landscape architect firm, and the Doughboy's fate is uncertain.
Oh, Doughboy's fine. He's not away.
Thank God. Now, when I was a little girl, growing up in the valley, my parents would take me to Olvera Street and to Chinatown, and by the time I was about 5, I started to wonder when we get to visit a French neighborhood. There had to be one, right? It took over 20 years and a rare book published in 1932 for me to find out that Southern California's French communities were right under my feet the whole time. It's just a matter of learning where to dig.
Okay, I think we're all here. Cece, you have the microphone.
I'd just like to draw your attention to the fact that across the street and on our left is the former Louisiana tract developed by Prudent Beaudry. The tract was bordered by Hill and Grand from 2nd to 4th Streets. Now, Victor Beaudry lived down the road at Hill and Temple, and in those days, Hill Street was called Montreal Street after the Beaudry's hometown.
Okay.
Where's Nathan Marsak?
Hello.
Hi, Nathan. What are we looking at that piece of dirt? We're at 2nd and Hill, by the way.
He knows where we are.
Not everyone knows where we are, though.
What exactly do you want to know about that lovely piece of
Is
dirt?
that original?
No, strictly speaking, nothing is original because everything's in flux, which is why we love Los Angeles. But that was actually a large mound of dirt that was dug out in, I think, 1926 for parking. But originally, it had tennis courts on top of it. It had 4 very impressive mansions, which were then disappeared and turned into, like, say, the Hotel Lock, which was right there on that corner. The Dennis and Farwell designed Moore Cliff apartment building. Mr. Moore built an apartment building on a cliff, Hill Street. We used to be there, etc., etc. You used to be able to see the back of the Melrose, which was at 2nd and Grand, looming over us, which is now where the 1969 Tinker Toy, as it's called, parking garage is, which was
temporary,
which was meant to be temporary, and of course is now our link to old vintage Bunker Hill, because the 1969 Tinker Toy temporary parking garage is the best piece of old Bunker Hill we still have. Irony of ironies.
What about the tunnels on Hill Street? We're here. There was a tunnel.
There were 2 tunnels.
That's right. So just give people quickly a sense of what used to be.
Okay, very quickly. Nothing is original. Conversely, and of course the only true thing about any statement like that is that its exact opposite is also true. Remember that. So the 1924 2nd Street Tunnel, the 1901 3rd Street Tunnel are sort of also early remnants of Bunker Hill. As you would head up Hill Street, there used to be a very large hill there, roughly the same size and shape of the courthouses, and you would pass through tunnels right about, well, actually the other side of 1st Street. So right, that orange bus would have been a trolley car driving through the tunnel as it would cross 1st, and then you'd emerge onto Sunset, and then all along here, these were all levees. You say, that's the Jewish section, and I say we'll pass over that. All along here, was that from Coconuts? All along here, these were all...
3 years since you've done that joke.
Yeah, I haven't used that joke in 20 years. All along here, it was all commercial and hotels, and you know, your average, like, sort of 4- and 5-story brick commercial buildings. Bustling area. Amazing place. Is that sort of the flavor of what you wanted to get?
Thank you.
Okay, and we're going to continue our next stop. We're going to stop atop Fort Moore and look down and descend onto the plaza, and we'll keep going. And I'm so excited for everyone to meet Jean Bruce Poole. She's just 90. She's 92. She's 92. She's a national treasure.
We don't say a woman's age.
Not that age. You're 92. That reaches a point where it becomes a...
It's technically not a French stop,
but we're stopping here because the police say so. So we are standing over the 101 Golden State Freeway. This went in 1949, and right there, where all those cars are stopped, that used to be where the Baker Block was.
Hey Richard, is that a pocket site stop?
Yeah, it is. It is. So this is, I think, pocket site stop number 4 on the tour. Number 2. So this building was, Colonel Baker was not French, and Arcadia Bandini, his bride, was not French, but it's my favorite building in the entirety of Los Angeles, and we're right here, so I'm just going to take a second. The Baker Block was a beautiful French Empire building. It was built in the French Empire. It had a mansard roof. It was mixed use. Yeah, it was. The ground floor was retail. Upper floors were apartments, and God bless, one city council member out of 13 voted to save it, and they wanted to move it to Lincoln Heights, and they didn't. But the Baker Block is gone. It was right there, and there's a really good Mexican restaurant next to it. And so, also, Cece, we are looking over the plaza. So I think we have a really good view of Alameda and Aliso is basically. Does everyone see that overpass? That it's the ramp for the Gold Line extension in the distance. Okay, so that's basically Alameda and Aliso. And for French Los Angeles, Cece, that was pretty important. Can I ask you to riff off the cuff just as we look out to the old intersection of Alameda and Aliso?
Real quick, the Baker Block did house the law offices of Judge Julius Brusso, who was born to French-Canadian parents, so it does a point French connection. Anyway, you'd never know it now, but the intersection of Alameda and Aliso streets was the hub of Frenchtown. A dozen French-owned hotels, most of them catering to newcomers from the Basque regions, were clustered at that intersection. The biggest held up to 1,000 guests and held weekly handball tournaments that attracted players from all over the United States. Now, the Matthew brothers had their first restaurant near that intersection, and Felipe's had 2 previous locations on Aliso. There were at least 2 French bakeries. Pascal Bayard's grocery and liquor store was there. The original French consulate was there. Wine wholesaler T. Vacher and Company was there. Now, from Los Angeles to Maine, Aliso Street held the Signoret building, the Beaudry building, Solomon and Lazard and Maurice Kramer's pre-City of Paris dry goods business, the original Ducommun Industries building, and the original Farmers and Merchants Bank, co-founded incidentally by Dominique Gamastoy, Joseph Mascarell, and Charles Ducommun.
So that's Aliso and Alameda. The last buildings really standing on, so that block basically was destroyed in 1936. The Aliso Street Bridge had a major improvement in 1936, and because of Union Station's construction, that whole neighborhood was taken out, and basically in 1933 they started clear cutting, so that was all gone, and the last establishments on that street were bordellos and livery stables, 1935. So it's a great bit of old Los Angeles. When the bordellos, yes, the bordellos. When we get to Felipe's, our last stop, I actually found a video that the city clerk's office put out of the intersection of Leon and Aliso, which was just a little east of Alameda and Aliso, and it's filmed in 1936, right before everything got torn down. So we'll watch it when we get to Felipe's. Okay, let's go. We are now at the Plaza, El Pueblo, the birthplace of Los Angeles. Jean Bruce Poole is walking around the corner. We're gonna see her in a second. So Cece, do you want to get us oriented right here, and then we'll walk into the plaza itself? I think I checked the schedule. It's scheduled hoping there wouldn't be a big event, and this is apparently a little event. It's not on the calendar. So do you want to just, while we're in the shade and it's relatively quiet, give us a little orientation? Yeah, it's okay, or I can. Why don't we? Yeah.
It's a great place to do Brunswick. Actually.
Yeah. Why don't we just walk another 20 feet down? And we're just going to walk. We want to be directly across from this corner brick building right here, the Brunswick building. Perfect. Okay, Cece, I'm going to go find Bill and Jean. This is the Brunswick building. This is the Garnier block. Correct? Garnier block. Take it away.
Okay, so to the right, as you can see, Philippe Garnier's Now, as you can see, Philippe Garnier's life wasn't over when he and his brother Eugene lost Rancho Los Encinos to foreclosure. In 1871, the Chinese massacre happened just a stone's throw from here. In 1882, the U.S. government banned Chinese immigration for 10 years. Chinese residents couldn't buy property and had trouble finding places to rent. Many landlords saw the Chinese as barbarians, but Philippe Garnier saw potential tenants. Now, the Garnier building, which we'll get to, was constructed to meet the needs of Chinese merchants. The Garnier block, which was another one of Philippe's projects, was a combination commercial building and hotel, with shops at the ground level and then the hotel up above. Now, before the Garnier block was constructed, a French sea captain named Charles Barrick and his wife Sophie lived here. Captain Barrick at one point owned the La Brea tar pits and sold tar for roofing. Sophie was a witness in a gruesome murder case. You want to hear about that?
Yes.
Yes. So the Barracks were good friends with their neighbor Nicholas Fink. He lived across the plaza from them, and he ran a general store in the front room of his modest house. Now, in those days, shop owners would have to go to the port at San Pedro to buy stock from whichever ships had just arrived. So whenever Fink went on a buying trip, he locked up the house and left the key with Sophie for safekeeping. Now, one day in 1841, Sophie noticed that Fink's door wasn't open. It was always open during trading hours unless he'd gone to the port. But as the wife of a sea captain, Sophie knew that there were no trading vessels docked in San Pedro that day, so clearly something was wrong. Fink's door stayed shut the next day, and it stayed shut the next. Finally, Sophie walked across the plaza to Fink's house. She couldn't see anything through the keyhole, but she could smell something revolting. Sophie went straight to Councilman Don Manuel Requena. He called court officer Don Ignacio Coronel, and Coronel summoned 3 deputies to the scene. They had to break down Fink's door to get inside. Fink's body was lying near the shop counter, with his magnifying glass still in hand, in a pool of blood. He'd been robbed and bludgeoned to death. The killers had chained Fink's Mastiff in the rear courtyard without food or water, but incredibly the dog survived, and the case was cracked when the dog attacked one of the suspects. Yeah, he tried to use his mistress as an alibi, but she cracked under the pressure. Now, the Barracks adobe house was demolished in 1883 to make way for the Garnier block, and incidentally, the same architects also designed the Pico house. Now, if you're wondering why Philippe Garnier, who had the fanciest dining room in the entire valley, opted for such a plain-looking building, the short answer is that he didn't. The Garnier block was originally far more representative of the French love of ornamentation, but all the decorative cornices, brackets, panels, pediments, and molding were deemed a seismic hazard and taken down after the 1971 earthquake. Structurally, the building is still very much the way it was. Now, on the left, the brick building, the Brunswick building. Lucien Napoleon Brunswick was the busiest pharmacist in LA's 236 years of history. He set up shop here in town in 1903, and by 1932, he had over 1,000 drugstores in California, Arizona, Nevada, New Mexico, Colorado, Utah, Hawaii, Mexico, Vietnam, and China. Brunswick Square in Little Tokyo was built later in 1931 to serve as a warehouse for the company's pharmaceuticals. LA's French community has a history of strong support for both France and the United States in times of war. This was especially apparent during World War I. And France's biggest supporter in Los Angeles at the time was none other than Lucien Brunswick. Besides running a massive wholesale pharmaceutical supplier that is now part of a multi-billion-dollar company, Brunswick was president of the Alliance Française, president of the Comité France-Amérique, a co-founder of the Cercle Catholique Français, which aided new immigrants from France, and an active member of the American Committee for Devastated France, the French Ambulance Service, and the Maison Claire. But that wasn't enough for Brunswick. In 1917, at the age of 63, he spent 8 months in France, writing about his experience. In 1923, the Soldier Monument Committee was founded to raise funds to erect a memorial to local residents who had died in the war. Brunswick served as vice chair of the committee. During the Depression, Brunswick, who was now well into his 70s, spearheaded the task of feeding thousands of hungry laborers. He was also one of 6 prominent Angelenos who donated $5,000, that's about $70,000 today, to Christine Sterling to transform Olvera Street into a marketplace. For his considerable efforts, Brunswick was awarded the Légion d'honneur. That's France's highest honor for both civil and military merits. Unfortunately, Brunswick died in 1943 and didn't live to see the Allied victory in World War II.
Gene, come on out. Come on out. Thank you. Cece, thank you so much. Thank you. Everyone, Jean, come on up. Everyone, I'm delighted we have a special guest. Everyone, this is Jean Bruce Poole.
Hello,
Jean, you were hired as the curator of. So you were hired as the senior curator for El Pueblo in 1977. 1977, and you held that position until 2002. 2001. Thank you. So, Jean, everything we see. Okay, but we'll let you give your complete lineage in a second. Everything we see at the plaza that has interpretations, signage, how things are organized, you had a big hand in all of that. So what I want you to do is I just want you to introduce yourself, and everyone's just eager to hear a little bit about how Olvera Street and the plaza came to be what it is today.
Thank you. Hello. I find it difficult to hear very well. Can you all hear me? Okay, good. Well, Christine Sterling came in 1926, and she saw that the Olvera Street was kind of a slum, and the Avila adobe was beginning to decline. It had been built in 1818 and is the oldest house still standing in Los Angeles. Anyway, she decided that she was going to get help, and she went to see Harry Chandler, publisher of the Times, and they did help her, and they were kind of romantic about the way Olvera Street was, and everything had to be Mexican and nothing could be anything else. So she would have been horrified at the fact that we have honored the Chinese, especially after the Chinese massacre of 1874, and you all know about that, where 18 or 19 innocent people were killed. It was really bad, but though people went to trial, the Chinese could not testify against Anglos, so they didn't go to prison. They came out of prison immediately, so nobody was found guilty. Still, I'm jumping around. Going back to Olvera Street, Mrs. Sterling decided to create a Mexican marketplace in the street, and she started all these shops and market stalls. There weren't any in the plaza at that time. That's more recent, and that's due to work being done in Olvera Street. And I don't really, and the way it is today, it's not like that normally, so please come back on a normal day when there aren't all these people. The museums are open from 10 till 3, and so you can see in the back of the Avila adobe, there's a place, in fact it used to be my old office, and they've turned that into a place to show a film about the history of Los Angeles. It's quite brief, but it really helps show you what's where. But then other buildings that are open are the Firehouse, run on the corner, and of course they're closed now, but they are open normally 10 to 3. And then over on in the Olvera Street area, you've got the Sepulveda House, which is an 1887 Victorian building, very nice, and we furnished a bedroom and a kitchen to look the way they might have looked then when Mrs. Sepulveda lived there. Then the Italian Hall is now being sponsored by the Italian community. Sorry?
Yeah, it's very exciting.
And so they have exhibits in there, but there's also an exhibit on the Siqueiros mural, which I helped to save, I'm very glad to say. When I first came, it was the whitewash was beginning to fade away, and so the color that was under the whitewash was disappearing, and so we needed to get help. One day we started a Save the Siqueiros mural committee, but you know what committees do, they raise a little money and then nothing much happens. We got people up from Mexico to look at it, and they told us what it needed and told us to cover it. So we put a covering over it, not right up against it, but so that people could come and look at it, and it would not be damaged by the sun anymore. And then one day I was in the Sepulveda house and I ran into some people from the local councilman of the district's office, and they said, "Have you talked to the Getty?" And I said, "No, I haven't." So they said, "Why don't you go see Corso, who is head of the conservation unit at the Getty?" So I went to see him, and that's now history will relate. They took over and they preserved it. They did a huge amount of work on it, and you can see it from the Sepulveda house, so it's well worth.
We'll go later.
Well, you can't. It won't be open.
We can see the Siqueiros mural from. No, we can't. We can see Italian Hall. We're going to do the best we can. Italian Hall is not open, but we're going to pass it at the end of the tour. Where is Bill Ellinger?
Right there.
Everyone thank Bill Ellinger. He gave Jean a ride. Bill Ellinger doesn't just give Jean Bruce Poole rides. Bill Ellinger, you moved Angel's Flight in 1994, am I correct? Okay, so everyone please thank Bill. And there's a very good photo of you in a really great beret when you're in front of Angel's Flight. So, Bill, you were involved with many things with getting Angel's Flight out of storage. You helped John Welborn determine that great orange, which the current operators are not following, I'm sorry to say. So everyone, Bill Ellinger is a really important guy, and we're really lucky. Thank you for helping bring Jean down. You're a great resource. So Cece,
I think Jean wants to.
no.
Yeah, I wondered if Cece had talked about the history of the Pico House and how it was a French restaurant. I mean, in 1870, that's thrilling that there were enough French people and people to come and to eat here as a French. It has always been my dream that we could restore the Pico House and bring it back to having a restaurant and furniture of the period. It would have been lovely, and maybe someday we'll do that.
Should we start a committee, Jean?
We should. No committees. We hate committees. So Cece, just the architect of the Garnier building, the Garnier block is Kizor, who's also the architect for Pico House. Okay.
Pico House architect is Ezra F. Kaiser. He also built the Merced Theatre in 1870.
Which is right there. So Cece, we agreed we were going to go around the block and go.
Oh, perfect. So we're gonna go around the block to the Garnier building and get out of this noise. So Cece, do you want to lead the way? Okay, perfect. And wait. You want to go this way? Okay, perfect. We'll go this way. Excellent. I love it.
Thank you so much. I love it. Okay. Del Val is the family name. Del Val is the family name. Okay.
That was murdered.
Right. So we are at. That's right. This is the end of Sanchez Street. Right. So there's the freeway. This is Arcadia. This is Alameda and Aliso, which we looked at from afar, would have been just right over there. It's all gone. So Cece, get us oriented and take it away.
So, As I mentioned, the Garnier building was constructed specifically to meet the needs of Chinese merchants. They did a lot of business here in town, but they had a very, very hard time finding places to set up shop. Now, Philippe Garnier built all of this, and the need was so great that a team of merchants actually signed a lease for the building before it was finished. This building was the hub of LA's original Chinatown, and it housed Chinese businesses, clubs, schools, and community associations until the state took it over in 1953. This is the very last remaining structure from the original Chinatown.
Yeah.
Incidentally, this building used to be much bigger. It was partially demolished to make room for the 101 right behind us.
Which was 1949. 1949.
Yes, this is the last shred of the building. It was much, much bigger. Now, there isn't a great way to walk there from here, but on the other side of the building, there is a brick relief that reads P. Garnier, 1890, or the building's founder. Our names are emblazoned all over the city in the literal sense, but they don't get noticed very often. There's also a plaque commemorating the building's history. It is in English and Mandarin, but curiously, there is no French translation. Take a minute to think about that.
So, Jean, we are on the edge of old Chinatown. Do you want to talk to us a little bit about this building for a sec?
This was built in 1894 and was occupied by different vendors, Chinese and others. And the interesting thing is that it wasn't very well known about, and people don't. Had you heard about the Garnier building before? Philippe Garnier was, of course, a Frenchman. Maybe you're going to say more about him. And that's another wonderful thing about the French in Los Angeles. They were really quite numerous in 1860, you know. So that's possible.
Okay, so good. So she just spoke. So what I wanted to do, what I really was looking for you to tell us about is, so when you came to the plaza, what was really the first, you've talked about the Siqueiros mural, which is great. What was the first big thing you did when you decided you were given the job of interpreting the history of the birthplace?
Well, I wanted to make it more accurate, because it wasn't very accurate, and people would say things, and there was a group called Los Amigos del Pueblo who were friendly with Mrs. Sterling, and they were would have balls and things to raise money for the Pico House and other places, but they never succeeded in doing much of anything. But they were romantic, so anything Spanish or Mexican was okay, except that when we came to put in a plaque about the old Spanish trail, have you heard about that? That was good. From 1828 to 1849, I think, and it ended in Los Angeles with the mules and pack train coming here, and there was nothing to record that history. So we tried to get it. At first they said, oh, no, they didn't want it because it was Spanish, not Mexican. But, history is history, and that's what I, as a foreigner, had intention of correcting. So when I wrote my book, it's a book called El Pueblo, The Historic Heart of Los Angeles, I tried to make things correct.
Perfect. Thank you. So, Cece.
I'm going to fix this. Cece, we're going to move across the plaza to the Biscalos building, yes? Okay. Before we do that, I just want to, Nathan, maybe you can help me for a minute? Sure. I want to try and orient us. So, a big part of what has been lost at the plaza, because of the construction of Union Station across the street, the original Chinatown doesn't exist anymore. So, Cece, when you say this is the last part of the original Chinatown, when we talk about the original Chinatown, the new Chinatown is where it is. It's just to the north and the east and north of here. The original Chinatown started here and went across Alameda all the way to the river. And this, because of course there were 19th century laws about Chinese owning property, they couldn't own property. All of Chinatown was leased by several families like Arcadia Bandini, named after Arcadia Street right here. All of this...
Other way around.
She owned the land and she leased it. Yes, thank you. So in 1928, the deal for Union Station was secured and Chinatown ceased to exist. Eviction orders were given, and over the course of 2 to 3 years, it was all gone. So what I just wanted to explain was, when we talk about Chinatown, it really started here and moved to the east, and none of this is left anymore. Okay, and we lost an incredible amount when we lost that. Nathan is up. John Fonte, in his novel Ask the Dust, he attempts to pick up solicit a prostitute in front of La Placita, the church, and they walk across Alameda to the crib section of Chinatown, which is where the prostitute has her crib. And so that's in literature. That's the best thing I can point to about this lost Chinatown. Nathan, am I missing any major? Everything's gone, so there are no salient points. But I just, in people thinking about old Chinatown.
I think the high points. What's important to remember, there have been massive geographical and topographical changes. So without visual aids, without maps on whiteboards, it's difficult to really express to you how there's a giant hill over there. Leave aside Bunker Hill, but 4 more stretched all the way up and over onto Spring Street. None of this slot was here. The Baker Block, the 1878 first, the grandest building in California with the greatest cast iron front, was just here at Arcadia. And Chinatown stretches all the way down to the river.
Yeah.
Also a large French influence down there, because that's where like Vines and Ducomont are, where the old gasometers used to be. And and I just discovered a very nice size collection in my archives of Chinatown in 1919.
Wow.
4x5 negatives, which I'm busy scanning. So
basically your archives contain things you've never looked at?
Yes, my archive is an undiscovered country.
We're going to go to Biscalou's building? Okay, before we go to Biscalou's building, Nathan, I need your help very quickly. Jean, you brought up Ezra Kizor, the architect, Kaiser of Pico House. Nathan, I was hoping you could help me. Kaiser takes on some partners, and the firm changes, but Kaiser's architectural firm was, for the longest time, the oldest practice in Los Angeles, and some very important architects. So, and Bill, I'm looking for you to help too. Could you help Nathan and I trace the history of Kaiser to Morgan, Walls, and Clements? Morgan, Walls, and Clements, of course, are these major designers for Los Angeles in the 1930s. So, Ezra Kaiser comes to Los Angeles. He gets the commission for the Pico House in 1869. About 69, yes.
Yeah, it's built in 69. Merced Theater is 70.
Talk to them.
Merced Theater is 70. The Masonic Hall, which is Perry and Brady, or Perry and Woodworth at the time, he remodels in the late 60s. It's an 1858 building that he remodels. But to bring it back to William Nadeau, the great Nadeau Hotel, that's Kaiser. Kaiser becomes Kaiser. He takes on Octavius Morgan, becomes Kaiser Morgan. Becomes Kaiser Morgan and Walls. Kaiser drops out, becomes Morgan and Walls.
Morgan and Walls Morgan and Walls builds the Barclay Hotel, 1896 at 4th and Main, amongst other things.
Amongst other things, super important. And then they take on this young punk named Styles Clements in 1913, who is arguably like one of the greats who fashioned Los Angeles as we know it, who works in the Richfield building, of course. He works in the sort of Spanish Churrigueresque. He does Art Deco, but what really sets Los Angeles apart, and it's almost totally wiped out now, is the late moderne. He's the king of late moderne, which nobody cares about, and you're all a bunch of idiots. Not you, of course. I'm speaking to you out there in City Hall land for not saving our late moderne. They had this fantasy that the Mullen and Blewett on Wilshire was like, oh, it's not a good late moderne, and it's not really Styles Clements, it's his son. It's like, shut up! I don't know what you're talking about. It was great. It's gone.
Wait, did the Cranky Preservationists just come out?
That's right, your presentation.
I want to keep this short, but all I wanted to do
that's
in this
already
brief
too late.
interlude was just to trace from Pico House to the epitome of late modern design in Los Angeles in the 1930s. It's a direct lineal
it's a golden
descent from Ezra Kaiser, all the way to Styles Clements and Morgan Walls and Clements. Question. Hotel Nadeau, which Cece spoke about in the basement. Hotel Nadeau is at First and Broadway. It is where the Los Angeles Times building is. The fourth Los Angeles Times building was the Hotel Nadeau. Harry Chandler gave rubble from the Hotel Nadeau to Christina Sterling for China City. Yes, which we'll talk about.
Burned in, what, 39?
Burned in 39. But that's across from Philippe's. We have to stop talking. Piscaloo's building. Let's go. Follow Cece. Okay. You know about this? Yeah, they're here. One more. Keep your office here around there. So, Cece, I fixed the PA. There's this hidden 9-volt battery. Well, it's not hidden, but anyway. Cece, we are at the Piscaloo's building. This is built adjacent to the Methodist Church. And why don't you let's start sort of, let's zoom in. Start big and zoom in. Because I know we want to get to the plaque, right? Okay, so let's pull into focus here.
Okay, so this building may house the Mexican Cultural Institute, but it's named for an Angelino of French Basque extraction. Eugene Piscaloo's helped organize the California Highway Patrol and was sheriff of LA County from 1932 to 1958. Piscaloo's was such a respected lawman that when he retired, the Board of Supervisors named him Sheriff Emeritus for the rest of his life. Now to orient you all, the Alameda Street is right there. We can sort of see Union Station from here. Now the street behind us, that was formerly...
I knew what I'm buying you for Christmas.
Okay, it's good now.
So the street behind us was formerly called Marchessault Street after the popular mayor, and the old
Okay, that's it. You're buying a new one.
Okay, buy a new one. Sorry. You're gonna have to raise your voice. Sorry. Okay, sorry.
So the old Los Angeles City Water Company stood right about there. Now if you take a good look at the Davy and Marchessault marker behind us, right by that plant, and I urge everyone to take a look, you'll notice two things aren't quite right. First of all, marker references the street being named after Marchessault. Check Google Maps, and now they're calling it Paseo de la Plaza. Second, the plaque is in English and Spanish. Again, no French translation. I've already gone over the fact that Marchessault had to be reinterred when his final resting place at the city cemetery was taken over to become a Board of Education parking lot. Even in death, one of LA's most beloved mayors of all time can't get any respect.
And there is no official portrait of him.
There are no surviving pictures of him anywhere.
He's not even in the list of mayors at the 18th floor of City Hall.
6 terms. There are no pictures of him.
No photos of him.
No one knows what he looked like.
City archivist for 30 years, whoever's city archivist has been asked, please find a photo of him. And 30 years they can't do it. I've spent like 20 minutes on this problem, but the current city archivist has assured me, very good researchers have put their minds to this. They've asked the Huntington and UCLA.
It's probably in Nathan's archive.
I doubt it. So do we want to look at the? So do we want to pull? Okay. So let's pull back and let's go stand around this plaque right here. Perfect.
Disrespect is probably not so much aimed at the French. We didn't think about it.
So everyone come on. I'm sorry. Everyone come around. We're looking at the plaque. Everyone come around.
As you can see, there's a plaque in the sidewalk. We don't have any photos of the mayor. He's been reburied once already. He does get a plaque. And it reads, "This street is named for Damien Marchessault, a French Canadian who served twice as mayor of Los Angeles. This is 6 total terms. I don't think they have the dates quite right.
Would you mind if I read it? I have a nice loud voice. I have a nice loud voice. I'm going to read this.
Dates are wrong.
Marchessault. This street is named for Damien Marchessault, a French Canadian who served twice as mayor of Los Angeles, 1859 to 1960, and again from 1861 to 1865. During his terms in office, the Plaza Church was rebuilt. The city gas company was organized. Marchessault and a partner, Jean-Louis Saint-Savon, worked together to provide water for Los Angeles through a system of hollow log pipes. As mayor, Marchessault supported a proposal to split California into 2 states, but this was not approved by the voters. In 1868, unhappy over public criticism of the water system and the constant problem with the pipes, and also because of despondency over gambling debts, he committed suicide in the city council chamber.
Oh,
wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So the dates aren't exactly right. His first term was 1859 to 1860. He was reelected again and again and became water overseer at the end of his 1865 term. That's when Joseph Mascarell served his single term as mayor. Now, he came back to the mayoral office for a few months, went back to being water overseer for a while, ran for mayor again, won, and was technically still mayor when he killed himself. By the way, you won't find references to this in too many places because it is so gruesome. He didn't just shoot himself, he shot himself in the face. Oh! Newspaper accounts state that the bullet entered his skull next to his nose and lodged in his brain. So think about the physics of that. He shot himself in the face.
I have a question. So with the bones being moved repeatedly, are you confident that he's buried where we think he's buried? Or
Angeles Rosedale?
You don't think they lost him, do you?
They reburied him once, and he was moved along with his wife and stepson. I don't think his family would lose him.
Okay.
This is Mary's family. I don't think he had any other family living in the States.
Okay.
So where is the current burial?
Angeles Rosedale.
So Pico Union District.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, City Cemetery to Angeles Rosedale. He was moved once.
Perfect.
Anyway, anyone ever digs him up, look for the photo.
Okay, good. Are you gonna talk about the Methodist? You want to talk about Politi, or Jean talk about Politi?
He knows more about it than I do.
Jean, would you like to talk about the Leo Politi mural behind us? Let's turn and face people. Perfect.
We're not using.
No, it broke. I'm sorry.
Not as sorry as I am.
A wonderful friend of the plaza, and we had his burial service here, and I have 2 little pictures. One is framed card I got from him because we published a card of his, blew it up and sold it in the gift shop. And anyway, I just thought he was wonderful. So it's very special. But this is a mural of the blessing of the animals.
Right, and this is something that happens annually here. It's the weekend.
It's the day before
the
Easter.
day. Thank you. I'm Jewish, so that thank you for correcting.
Happy New Year.
Thank you.
Easter.
It's the Saturday before Easter, right?
Saturday.
Okay, yeah.
At the San Gabriel Mission.
Yeah, they do this at the San Gabriel Mission, but they do it here. They do it here.
They do that elsewhere too, but the biggest one is here.
Yeah.
And the merchants generally provide a cow, and then they put a wreath on the cow. So it was always a very special occasion.
It's fantastic.
And
You can bring your
always
iguana.
dogs and cats that are blessed by the cardinal or whoever does it, they always behave perfectly after that. That's what I heard.
Learned how to make
Jean.
my 13-year-old cat behave. I may finally figure out how to make my 13-year-old cat behave.
Jean, while we're right here, I was hoping this building is where they have the committee meetings for the commission.
El Pueblo Park Association.
Would you mind
and
just
the
spending?
commission.
Wait, let's think
Well,
about.
first of all, when I came to work for them, it was a state historic park. And with the state, we did a general plan for El Pueblo, which is really important.
And then
Very good document. Very good historic.
City was run, the park was run by a commission of a committee of people, and then it was decided that this would become a Los Angeles park. So in 1994, I think, I was still working, we all became city employees, and they had a commission, and the commission meets in that building.
Perfect. And so, of course, then, the explanation for everything that happens here, everything good and everything bad, is money and politics.
Well,
Not enough money and too much politics.
That's exactly what I've said all along. And there is an El Pueblo Park Association. You could all become members of that. I'm sorry I don't have any leaflets, but it's really helping to enlarge what we do here.
And the El Pueblo Park Commission concerns itself with cultural activities, whereas this other commission, which is an actual city department that is charged with running and maintaining this park, that is more bureaucratic in nature.
It's all city, and the mayor appoints the members of the commission. But sometimes they try to have people who have some influence down here. And we have a really good general manager called Chris Espinosa, which I wish I could say was the case when I was working here. And I said to him the other day, I wish you had been here when I was here. I ended up, thank you. Never mind. Sorry.
It's another tour. Cece, where are we? Are we going to La Placita now, or are we? Yes.
La Placita works for me.
Let's go. Okay. Perfect. Lead the way.
To the plaza.
Yeah. To the Plaza Church. Yes. Perfect. You need some more water. Okay. Good. This is Kizor too, isn't this? Kizor?
Kaiser.
Built in 1820.
Yeah, that's right.
Come on, he wasn't even
No,
here.
he did the remodel. There was a remodel in 1860.
I don't think he did.
We'll find out.
We'll find out. Okay, so everyone, this is going to be our last stop. So Cece, we're I call this La Placita. This is the church on the plaza. So take it away.
Okay, I'd like to draw everyone's attention to that faux Byzantine mosaic up there. LA's first known piece of public art. Henri Penelon's Madonna and Child graced that spot until the 1930s. Sometime between 1932 and 1937, someone whitewashed over the mural. I don't know why. Can you believe that?
Tradition of that.
Of course, that's what they did.
Then it was plastered over in the 1950s. The mosaic was installed in 1981. Now the Stations of the Cross attributed to Penelon, to my knowledge, are still on long-term loan to a church in Mexico. And it's anybody's guess as to whether Penelon's lettering remains on the marble tablets, but they'd be over 150 years old, so your guess is as good as mine. I'm betting no. And I'm pretty sure that somewhere in the great beyond, LA's first artist is quietly crying into a glass of Sass-Van Brothers wine. Now I'd like to draw your attention to that parking lot sign down right there by the corner, about where the restrooms are. Joseph Mascarell's Adobe house stood for many years. Now he later moved to the industrial core. It was Lazard Street then, it's Ducommon Street now. And the Centu building stood about halfway down that block. And as we saw in the slideshow, Christine Sterling hung a black wreath on the door when it was condemned.
So she did care something.
We've got a good color in the center block. Are we good? Okay, great. All right, so let's. Oh, sorry about that. Nathan, where did you go?
I don't know.
He's eating an ice cream.
You had an ice cream.
Yeah.
Good for you.
Nice lady down there selling ice cream.
Jean, I was just about to ask if you wanted to. Yes, please.
I'd like you all to look at the Pico House
Yes.
and see what a beautiful building it is. And the Merced Theatre is right next door. So where are you going? Are you walking?
We're gonna walk that way. Yeah.
Well, be sure to look at the streetscape because it is lovely.
It's a beautiful vista.
Yes. Yeah.
So Jean, I guess I have just a general question for you. So in your decades here, directing interpretation of this park, do you feel there was really a lack of interpretation about French culture here?
Oh, they didn't know a thing about it. And I did try to tell about it, you know. I mean, about Montreseau and Saint-Savin people. But I think we need to do more. And why don't you come and talk to the El Pueblo Park Association?
I would love to.
May Kim and I bring Cece for lunch with you in the next couple
Well,
of...
maybe not lunch, but maybe we could
Yeah.
arrange. So
Perfect.
I need give me her phone number.
Yep, got it. On it.
Because I'm still, I don't have much to do with it, but I'm still on the board of this support group, which we founded in 1978. But after I'd been there for a little while, I realized we needed help. So I think we'll have to do some more about the French, I agree.
Give her your card. Good, there you go. I will.
Thank you.
I will take the lead on this. So Jean, I was hoping, I'm going to put you on the spot. I want you, would you please tell us about your time in Paris immediately after World War II? Absolutely nothing. Jean, this is, turn around. Will you please tell us how you went to visit your mother's apartment and the concierge thought it was your mother?
Yes, it was so exciting.
Tell us the year. Tell us the year.
Well, let's think. I was in the Wrens in the war as soon as I left high school from 1942 to 45 when the war ended.
And the sailor was put in the brig.
That's another story, darling.
I don't think you want to stand all this time and hear that one. I'll tell you another time if I ever come back.
Can we sit sometime and hear all this?
It was fun. I was a plotter, meaning we plotted shipping. So we got radar plots, and radar was in its infancy then, you know, and it was exciting. We got all these plots, and we gave the whatever it was a number and a letter. Like if it was a convoy, it might be P45 or something like that, depending. And anyway, after the D-Day and all that happened, we went to Ostend, and we opened a plot there, and that was really fun because Christmas of 1944, we were 9 women, but I went to 3 Christmas parties. They were all men, see, they didn't have women. So that was fun. After I came back, I worked in London for a bit, and then I went to Paris to be at the Sorbonne, and I really enjoyed that and learned a lot. What was it you wanted to know?
The concierge thought you were your mother.
Oh, yes, yes. My mother, when she lived in Paris for quite a long time, and in fact she met my father because he was wounded in the First World War, and since his older brother had been killed, they didn't want to kill another member of his family, my family, and so they sent him to run the British intelligence in Paris.
Will you repeat that?
My father was injured at Ypres or somewhere like that in the First World War, and then they didn't want him to be killed.
Right.
But that's all right, isn't it? And so they sent him to work at the Paris office of British intelligence, and that's where my mother was working. And when she lived in Paris, which was for a long time, because she helped a very famous French actress called Réjeanne, and then in the war, of course, she worked for intelligence, and met my father, and they were married a couple of years later, 1919, I think. And anyway, I went, and it must have been sometime in, well, the late 40s, 1940s. We're not yet there. And I walked in the door, and French concierges always say, Madame, if you've been in a French building, you know they sort of say, what you want, but they don't say it like that. They say, Madame, don't they? You know that. And so I said, est-ce que je peux parler avec Madame
If you were still in charge, we wouldn't have this nonsense.
May I speak with Madame Avier? That was the name of the conseil. And she said, Mademoiselle Dawn, that was my mother's maiden name. And she came rushing down and hugged me and then invited me. Is this a friend or a foe? Who is it?
Taking down.
They're knocking down. Oh, I see. Well, I'll let you go because you stood long enough. And anyway,
She recognized your voice?
Did she? Oh, she knew at once. And then
Lovely.
she recognized I don't look like my mother, but she thought I did. And so she invited me for dinner. And when I went for dinner, it was called Casser la Gueule. I mean, they had really broken their necks to get a really super dinner, and they were burning telephone books for heat. Oh no! It was anyway. We kept up correspondence, so it was fun. Anyway, sorry I talked so long.
No, everyone, thank Jean.
For living.
So long. Lovely to see you all.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for coming.
I might give you a real tour of the Pueblo. You've already seen most of it, haven't you? We'll see. Oh, well.
All right, don't go. Okay, Jean, you have to go.
Yes.
Cece and I are not done yet.
Okay.
Everyone, say goodbye to Jean.
Bye, Jean.
Bye, Jean.
Everyone, thank Bill. Say thank you, Bill, for driving. Thank you for saving Angel's flight. Okay, good. How are you?
Okay.
You did a great job. All right, I want everyone to thank Cece.
Thanks, Cece.
All right, now repeat after me. Cece, please. Write your book.
Write your book.
Okay, I want to thank everyone. That's it. If you have questions, we're here. Ask us. But we're done. We're done. We'll be here for questions. Cece, we'll walk back. So you want to walk? Anyway, someone could buy her a beer at Grand Central Market. What? Oh, we're going to Philippe's. Right, I'm sorry, we're going to Philippe's. We're walking over to Philippe's. So someone could buy her a French dip sandwich at Philippe's.
They have wine and beer.
They have wine and beer. So let's walk over to Philippe's. But I just wanted to properly end here. Next month's Salon is going to be Civic Center art. So all those buildings, we walked up Hill Street, we saw the Moss Courthouse, we saw the Hall of Administration, and we saw the Hall of Records. Those all have really serious investments in public art in the 60s, and we're going to talk about all of it with the department in charge of preserving them and relatives of the artists and conservators of the artwork. And thank you, Cece, thank you again.
Bravo, bravo.
Coming.
Right.
Yeah, I didn't hear what you said about